Jeff Durkin's We Are Change Connecticut. We're out here at the Save Long Island Forum, wrapping up a 3-day conference with a list of amazing speakers. We're here with one of them, Charlotte Iserbyt, an amazing woman who wrote an amazing book about education and how people can get involved in stopping all this. Thank you so much, Charlotte, for coming out, and tell us your thoughts about the event and basically why you're out here today.
Well, this has been a marvelous conference, and very, very bright people, and a lot of young people, a lot of us oldsters as well, some very credible researchers here to explain how we all arrive where we are right now in this country, close to sort of giving up our constitutional form of government and moving into a global system, which can only be totalitarian. And a lot of good speakers, and I am the author of the Deliberate Dumbing Down of America, a chronological paper trail, which is, the big one's now out of print, but I can tell your listeners there that the big baby, which is now in European, some of the ex-European countries, I have friends over there who are teachers, and they're trying to get it translated into other languages, the Deliberate Dumbing Down of America. But the wonderful thing is, it's in English for all of you, and it's a free download at deliberatedumbingdown.com, and you can go in there and you can find out everything that happened, which was deliberate, starting in the late 1800s actually, but the basic thrust of it was in 1934 when the Carnegie Corporation called for using the schools to change America's capitalist system to a planned economy. And that's going in now under school to work. The kids are not going to have grades anymore. They can graduate 14 or 21. It's the global economy. Our children being used to spin off profits for the global economy. So Carnegie just followed every 5 years, putting money into what they wanted, was to change our country. Now that book, that quote for people who may question me, is at AmericanDeception.com. And all you have to do is type the word conclusions into the search engine. And the little blue book they wrote, Conclusions and Recommendations for the Social Studies, is there. That's a smoking gun. So everything that has happened since was deliberate. They created the deliberate academic dumbing down in order to get people dialectic, to scream and yell, and ultimately to go to school choice. Now we hear about school choice. Tax-supported school choice isn't choice. That will mean that all private education that takes a penny of tax money will be public. They will have to follow the UNESCO United Nations agenda. Now, my concerns are mainly in the area of stopping school choice, because that's the agenda with unelected boards to bring our country down. We will very likely lose our taxation by representation. Elected officials, once we allow the second largest budgetary entity in this country to be run by unelected boards. That's why I'm totally opposed to any form of school choice that takes tax money. The only school choice that's legitimate is when you unfortunately have to sit down and write that check on your own. Now, as far as Communist Core, I call it Communist Core, they love me for that, of course, is concerned, I'm very pleased. The good thing about that is that evidently the parents woke up, finally, because they saw that it was going to be coming to them on the computer, and that the assessment would be by computer, and that the results of the assessment would be used by the corporations to remediate the gaps and all in their children's not learning, but in their attitudes, values, and beliefs. Good for them, but they have to look at the situation where Common Core and school choice are one. It's sort of like apple pie without the cheese is like the kiss without the squeeze. School choice is the Trojan horse. And that should be, the parents can keep fighting Common Core if they want, but even if they win, it won't ever go away. See, because it's only a rerun of what we've had ever since 1970 with the National Assessment for Education Progress. The goal has always been, it's attitudinal change they're looking for. They want the new global man through the schools, and that's the assessment. It's Marxism. So the big deal is school choice. Stop it. It has to be stopped in its tracks. And it's very interesting how, take Lou Gerstner, the former head of IBM, calling on President Obama to bring down all 16,000 school districts. Now that is absolutely obscene when you think of the number of children in this country. Now where are they going to go? He's not talking about brick and mortar. He's talking about getting rid of elected boards. The corporations and the government in bed together, that's called fascism, socialism, communism, they can't stand elected boards. And that's what they want. They want to get rid of our elective form of government. And that's pretty much what I was here today, to talk about. And I also have this marvelous little 6-disc set that's brand new, 2 conferences that researchers, ed researchers and public school educators had, and we've all videotaped that we're selling. It's at Amazon.com, and it's called Exposing the Global Road to Ruin Through Education. And a lot of money went into that, but a lot of us old-timers felt we had to get this important information out to the American people. It's our toolkit. It's an actual toolkit about how to save our country, bring America back. But the major recommendation is get rid of the U.S. Department of Education. It's got to go. It should have gone. Reagan promised us it has to go, or we will not be able to solve this problem. There's no other way but to do that, but education must remain. Public education has to remain, but we have to get rid of the Department of Ed. We cannot take the option being presented to us by the corporations in bed with a public school system, which is limited learning for lifelong labor. That's what they want. Spin off profits. Our children will be used, K through 12, to be trained for certain jobs in the global economy. They'll be moved around. They'll be moved out of state. The money will follow the child. This is obscene. I mean, it's an atrocious, horrific agenda. I call it rock and hard place. That's the rock. The hard place is the present public school system. So you have to come down on the present public school system, bad as it is, and get rid of what's bad in it and go back to pre-1965. And I think if enough people, here you are interviewing me, if enough Americans get this message, our elected officials would listen. But otherwise, we're lost. I mean, none of what we've talked about today will be of any significance whatsoever if we lose our elective form of government. Because we won't be able to vote. If we don't like something, we won't be able to get rid of the people in there. Once they're in, they're in. It's the Soviet system. Regionalism is communism. And that's the appointed council's form of government. And that's what we're moving towards. So don't let it happen. That's their plan, to take us down through education.
One of the aspects which relates to us being Connecticut, Common Core is trying to be implemented in Connecticut. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but there was a recent article about a PR firm that was paid over $1 million to implement Common Core in Connecticut. Any advice for people who are trying to fight that in Connecticut, because it's a local issue for us, how to start getting involved and let more people know about Common Core and how dangerous it is?
Well, I think they have to know that it's not new. I think they've got to do a little studying, which has all been done for them. Actually, we've done the research, like my book, Deliberate Dumbing Down of America. I just said it's free, so people who can't afford it, it's gone anyway. It's out of print. But the new one, which deals with school choice and all, the smaller version is for sale at Amazon. Deliberate Dumbing Down of America, the abridged, updated version, which deals with school choice in charter schools. That would be very good for them to buy that. It's $30 at Amazon. You can't win this battle. It's sort of like going to war without ammunition. And this is what worries me about the parents. I love them, and they understand. They see that something's very, very wrong, but they're going to war without the ammunition. If they had the ammunition and they were going up to testify that we've got in our research, they would get somewhere, because as I say, what is our research, Deliberate Dumbing Down of America, it's all documents. And as I said earlier, a friend of mine, a teacher in Bosnia, emailed me last week. They want to put that book into every language. It should be in every language, because what's in my book finding out from Eastern Europe now is what's going in there too. So without the research, the parents, those people they're talking to, they're going to laugh at them. But if they have the documents, they will not be laughed at. It's like if we went with those documents into court and you had a fair judge and a fair jury, it would be hands down guilty. The United States government and the corporations and Carnegie that called for all of this in 1934, guilty on all counts. Don't waste my time, the judge would say. The whole purpose has been to change our children's attitudes and values rather than to give them academics. And that's why they took all the history out, and the whole education has been focused on values education, values change, anything goes. And that's why our children have been in trouble. They don't know what direction they're moving in. They don't know what's right, what's wrong. They've been told mom's old-fashioned, dad's old-fashioned. We may be a little bit old-fashioned. I guess I'm a little old-fashioned too. But some things will always remain constant. And there's right and there's wrong. And our children have a soul and a conscience. And if they put these computers in with the Skinnerian Pavlovian software, which is what computers are all about, they can change our children's values in 1 hour. With a computer, you can do that. We have quotes from top computer people saying that that's the case, and that's what's going in now. And the parents will have no say. I have a good quote from the head of the World Institute for Computer-Assisted Teaching when he says, "Won't it be wonderful when the children in the remotest areas can have the benefit of the world's finest psychologists on that computer, and nobody, hey listeners, nobody can get between the child and the curriculum." Now that is scary stuff. You see, that is mind control. That's taking the soul away, the conscience. This is very serious what we're talking about, and so people have got to get on board. Education is key. People have got to be educated about where the educational changes came from. That it was deliberate. If you want to change a country from a socialist system, from a free system like we have, to a socialist system, you do it through the schools, and they did it.
Because you mentioned Common Core and how it is hard, especially it's a good way too that you mentioned your story about how teachers are even behind it and how it's important for people to come together, because otherwise we're not going to get anything done. Like you mentioned, without you can't fight a battle without any ammunition. It's definitely a good point. If you could elaborate on that for people any advice for any people who are fighting it now, and even in our area.
You need the ammunition, which is the research on these documents, deliberate dumbing down and back to basics reforms or Skinnerian international curriculum. You need the 8-disc set. But what is great about the 8-disc set is we have public school teachers involved there. We all worked together for 2 years on this project to get it out to the American people, and they're telling you what the stress they're under and how they have been just horrible what they've done through in-service training to try to. There's one document that I read on the disc that I can't believe it's true. It's one of the top change agents on how they can break the teachers, how they can break an educational system locally and twist it by it's called second order change. These people they're evil. They're totally evil that have done this to the teachers of our country. Now the good teachers are all having to leave because it's performance-based. They're kicked out. If they don't get the right scores from the kids, they're blamed, right? Yeah. Everything's been turned upside down. Instead of what it used to be input, now it's output. It used to be what you could give the child in their head for them to figure out on their own. That's input. Now you're looking for a certain performance. That's workforce training, say, total quality management. So the teachers are going to be all gone. They are already leaving in droves. And they're hiring Teach for America out of college students who've been pretty much brainwashed in Marxism. And they're going in to do to monitor the kids on the computer, to see that things are coming out properly. They're going through it and coming out the right way. Now, on this story, this is very, very serious, of assessment. We've just lost the protection we had for, it was called a parental Rights and Responsibility Act. It's been gutted. I think it's called FERPA, the Federal Education Rights and Responsibility Act, but FERPA, F-E-R-P-A. And whereas prior to a year ago when Obama gutted this thing without even getting permission, the school districts were not allowed to disclose the results of the assessment, the national assessment, which actually was what we've had ever since 1970. That's why I say Common Core is not that new. But except, in certain very specific situations, it could be done. Now, they're giving the results of the assessment. Don't forget that most of it is attitudinal and behavioral, the assessment. It's not academics. They're giving it to the corporations free. The corporations are designing software to remediate the gaps in your child's attitudes and values, whether they believe in God, whether they believe in the Constitution. Big subjects. Remediate until your child, over and over, because they'll keep working on it, comes to the correct global, international solution, which is really Common Core, is definitely international, UNESCO, right? So this is scary, very scary, and parents should be up in arms about what happened to FERPA. What's it called? The Federal Education Rights and Privacy Act, I think. And they ought to go on the internet, and I'm going to give them a website to go to because that's the easiest way to get this, is newswithviews.com. If they're very concerned, they should be concerned about FERPA, and they should be contacting their elected officials in Connecticut and saying, read the articles by Anita Hogue. Her last name is Hogue, H-O-G-E, at newswithviews.com. On this subject and on Common Core. She put something up last week. It's long and it's absolutely comprehensive, far better than anything I've been able to tell you today. In Connecticut, you have to go and read this stuff. Then just don't read it and do nothing. Go to your elected representatives, go to your school board members, go to the president, go to your senators and all, and say, stop this. Not only do you want Common Core stopped, you want the charter school agenda stopped, and Anita, and you want FERPA restored so that the corporations are not going to be allowed and the schools are not going to be allowed to give this very personal information about your children and you, parents, to the corporations so they can develop this software to remediate your family's values. That's what they want. They want the new Soviet man, the new American who's going to be perfectly happy living under a dictatorship, a global dictatorship, which is the purpose of UN Agenda 21, too. See? They all go together. When I'm talking education, you can't separate it from it, just like I said with Carnegie, taking our land, planned this back in 1934. Change our system of education right through the school. Use the schools to do it. Change us to a socialist system and take our land. Now our land is being taken through UN Agenda 21, isn't it? So there are enough people, who've been through this brainwash in the public schools, which Carnegie has supported all along, that don't see anything wrong with taking your land. Follow that one. Follow UN Agenda 21. Another book to get is Rosa Corey's Behind the Green Mask. Rosa is one of the speakers at our conference as well. We had one speaker on UN Agenda 21. So I appreciate very much, this interview. I hope you can get this out in Connecticut. I love Connecticut. I'm from Long Island. I used to live right across the way from Rye, New York. Rye, New York, and Connecticut and all. And good luck. All I can say. As long as we're all, there's no reason why we should lie down and accept this global system, this wicked, bad, totalitarian system. USA, we're the greatest country in the world. Why did everybody come here from all over the world? To benefit from our wonderful society and upward mobility, and we're throwing it away. I ask myself, sometimes I look in the mirror and I think, how is it possible? How is it possible that the American people are allowing this to happen? But you young people, so many here today, You know, maybe it's the beginning of although I must say, we were meant to go down in 1976. You heard me today talking about it. Declaration of Interdependence, that was they really thought they could take us down then. So we have, through fighting, and a lot of people who are listeners there are activists as well, they've been doing good work to try to keep what I've been talking about from happening. And they've been highly successful, but the media never gives them any coverage. So they don't even know they're successful. Take a look at Lou Dobbs. Back 5 years ago, when CNN, he was going up against UN Agenda 21, and he was fantastic. But he got fired because the American people learned too much about UN Agenda 21 because of Lou Dobbs. And then I call them they, right, in quotes, decided we better go underground because they're not ready for this yet. And all I can say, folks, is they're not ready because of you, because you've been fighting it. You don't even know you've had victories because the media's not going to cover it. So keep fighting. We might have been under UN Agenda 21 by now without this. Look at the North American Union and look at the European Union. Gorbachev referred to the European Union as the new European Soviet. What does that make the North American Union? We're all part of the same regional thing, right? Do we really want a North American Soviet? That's what we're looking at. And you've got people who are helping the Common Core gals and guys fight, who are part of the North American Union Soviet. For instance, I got to get this in, the Heritage Foundation, neoconservative Trotskyite, helping those parents fight Common Core. Many people will be surprised to hear that they drafted NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. Now, do we really want to go down the path of Heritage that drafted NAFTA? Why would they be so upset about the Common Core? Because they know they need Common Core, because that's workforce training. They need it for the charter schools, which they support. Heritage supports charter schools and choice. NAFTA. Don't forget, we have lost hundreds of thousands of jobs in this country due to NAFTA. And the neoconservative Trotskyite Heritage Foundation is helping the parents with Common Core. It's just sort of, there's a disconnect there somewhere, right? So think hard on who you're getting your support from, you Common Core opponents. Ask some questions. The Trojan horse is not Common Core, it is school choice. Because then we lose our elective form of government. It has all the history, the evidence to take to your elected officials, what happened, who was involved, how we can get our country back through legislation. The major thing is to bring down the United States Department of Education.
Because without grassroots media, without citizen journalism, we will not be able to take back the media. We have to make the corporate media irrelevant and take things in our own hands. And I applaud your guys' efforts, and I applaud everyone who's doing similar things, because this is really the revolution right here.